Hi, this is Bruce, and today we're going to be looking at how to add some swipe events using JavaScript to our jQuery mobile page. So here's the page where I've got it set up. You can see I've rethemed the page with Theme Roller that we looked at earlier. I've also added a pop-up image gallery using one of their demos. So from jQuery pop-up section in their demos, I've scrolled down to the photo lightbox, and you can see the source here. Of course, I've also, in my version, changed the photos to my own photos, and I've also added an image scaling script so that the images scale to the size of the screen for a more responsive experience. So let's take a quick look at the code we've got to start. So here's the main code. You can see I've got 3 pages. The first page is for the gallery, and then I've got a couple of other pages where I've got some notes, and then just a third page where I've got a bit of a layout. On the first page, you can see I've got the 3 links with the 3 images, and each of these images have a pop-up, are using the pop-up widget to do the pop-ups. And down below you can see I've got the 3 pop-ups that display the images when you click on them. I've also added a little bit of CSS just to change the max width of the galleries. So at a size that's smaller than your typical phone, or at least the iPhone 6s, they will display in 2 columns. And then once we get into horizontal view on a mobile device or desktop, they display in 3 columns and they are responsive. Okay, so let's get going. So first thing you'll notice is we're wrapping everything in a page container create function. Okay, so let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the jQuery Mobile API documentation to get the swipe events. So here's a swipe left event. So we can see here they've wrapped everything in a function similar to our page container show or page container create function. And then here is the event followed by the event handler. So I'll just copy those 2 things. And we'll paste them in here. And now that we've pasted it here, we need to specify what we want to swipe on. So if we go to our page and we inspect, we can see, let's inspect this. We can see here that this image has a class of pop photo, and it is in a div with a class of photo pop-up. Gotta love jQuery Mobile. So I'm going to put .photo pop-up .pop photo, and then we'll just add a little console. Log to see this in action, and we'll see if this works. I'm going to upload this, come back to here, come back to my page, click on the console, refresh the page, and you can see when I swipe left on an image that has been popped up, I get the swipe left appears in the console. So next thing we can do is we can copy this, and for the swipe right, and we'll duplicate the function as well. Upload, refresh here. Make sure that we've spelled them the same. And so we've got swipe right, swipe left, and I'll just double check a second image here. So there's a swipe left, swipe right, swipe left, and we're all good. So now what we want to do is we want to add the code to be able to change the image. So if we look at the API for the pop-up widget, we can see that we've got some code in order to be able to open up a pop-up. So presumably we could use swipe left or swipe right to open up a pop-up. But of course, before we open up a pop-up, we'll probably want to close the one that's open, so that we can then open up the new one. So let's try it. First of all, photo pop-up, pop-up close. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to refresh, and apparently it does. Okay, so now that we've got the closing of the images working, when we swipe to the left, what we want to do is to add an event to see when the pop-up closes because of the delay for the animation. So I'm going to refer to the thing that was just closed. And I'm going to use the pop-up after close event, create a callback, and let's do console log closed pop-up. So you can see I'm referring to this, so the thing that we swiped on. Actually, let me just double check, because we're swiping on this on the photo, but we need to close the parent. So this parent, let's see if that works. So we refresh this, boom, boom. And now you can see we are getting the close on callback. So in here, normally what we would think is that we could just add the open so something along the lines of pop up turtle, pop up open. Let's try that. So there's my turtle image. I'm going to pop up this, and it works. Swipe left, pop up open, and that seems to work. But obviously, what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to figure out which is the next or previous pop-up to open. We can't just hard code that in. And I've cheated a little here because I've worked it out in advance. So if we go from the element that we've just swiped on, as we can see here, and get its parent, and then we go next, next, and then go back down to that same element and get the ID, and hopefully this should work. And if we swipe left here, you can see it says hummingbird. Let me just refresh this. And if we swipe left here, you can see it says pop-up turtle. So we should be good. So now what we want to do is we want to pass all this into our selector here. Let's make it easier by creating a variable. So we'll come back up here to the top, and we'll let next ID be equal to, well, actually let's set pop up we'll set it to default of loon, and then down here we'll make that next ID equal to the ID of the next element. And we'll put that in here. So we still need the hash and then next ID. Actually, let me change the IDs to like this, just to be consistent with the way I usually do things. So let's upload that. And now, if we do this, you can see it's opening the next one, and the next one, and it's broken because after the hummingbird, we're at the end. So we're going to have to figure out how to get back to the beginning. So what we can do is we can see if this one exists by just testing the length. Oh, let me just refresh. So we'll click on this one, and you can see it gives us a length of 0. But if we click on this one, it gives us a length of 1. And if we click on the loon, you can see it still gives us a length of 1, suggesting that the next one does exist. Okay. So now what we can do is we can create that if statement. So if this is true, then we can open up this. Else, or we can set the next ID to be to the next one. Else what we're going to do is set the next ID to be equal to the first one of these. So next equals, so we're looking at the photo pop-ups. dot first of its kind, and we're looking for the attribute ID. Close that, and we should be good. Let's see. Just remove those quotes. I'm not sure why I put those there. Okay, so next, next, next. So it seems to be working. Obviously, if we're going the other way, we would have to do last. But we have a problem. You can see we're not closing, or at least every time we close, we're opening up. So what's happening is when we close using the swipe, it's automatically opening one. But when we close, so when we do pop-up after close here, it's automatically opening the next one, even if we want to just go back to the regular page. So perhaps what we can do here is there's an oddity in jQuery, but if you want to just have something fire only once, instead of doing on, you just do one, and let's see if that works. So let's upload that. Seems to work. Okay. So I'm going to just clear out a couple of console logs here. Got that one, got the swipe left. We don't no longer need those since they're both working. So we've got our handler for the when we swipe left to go to the next photo or the next image. Based on this event, once the one pop-up closes, then we're going to get the ID for the next element or the next pop-up, and then we're going to open up that next pop-up. But if we're at the end, what we want to do is by checking the length, we can see if we're at the end, and then if we're at the end, we're going to go back and open up the first. Okay, so now that we've got that working, we're going to copy the swipe left handler, and we're going to duplicate it, change it to the swipe right handler. And instead of next, I'm going to select that and go Command D or Control D, previous, because we want the one before, not the one after. And we'll change this to last. Okay, so let's check that out again. So if I click on this and go last, 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 you can see I'm getting an error here that says I need to that something's not working right. And if I go back here, you can see for the length equal to 1. Let's try that. There we go. And we can get rid of this console log here. I think we're done. Yep, that's working. So now you can see we're able to open up and swipe from one to the other. going either way, so backwards to see the previous photo, or swiping left or forwards to see the next photo, and we should be good. I hope this helps.